Just after 3:30 a.m. on July 19th, in the Canadian city of Surrey, British Columbia, Stephen Faltas awakens after calls from an alarm company and fire department about an incident unfolding at his church.
When I got to our church, it was a very difficult scene.
Video shot by a neighbor around 4:30 shows St. George Coptic Orthodox Church fully engulfed. Faltas is a board member at the church.
The street was completely closed. Approximately 4 or 5 fire trucks, all fighting the blaze, police cars. The scene was quite dramatic, surreal, to be honest.
It's the latest in a string of arson or vandalism against churches across Canada.
To hit 43 churches, and 10 were hit in a single day in Calgary. 10 churches, 1 city, 1 day. Shocking.
Those 10 incidents happening in Alberta province.
A pillar of the community over a century years old, reduced to rubble overnight in a blaze.
Where an officer with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police tells CBN News they have deemed the acts as suspicious.
We are actively looking for suspects so that we can hopefully hold those who committed the acts accountable for the damage and the turmoil that they've caused.
Calgary police releasing photos of several suspects wanted in their investigation.
When a faith community is targeted for vandalism or arson, it not only impacts those directly affected, but leaves others in the same faith feeling unsafe.
The arson and vandalism follows revelations of hundreds of unmarked graves at former boarding schools for Indigenous children, many which were Catholic-run. After the discovery, churches began to burn across Canada, and although most of the churches attacked have been Catholic, several non-Catholic congregations also suffered damage.
It's tragic that churches are being caught in the crossfire of a long and difficult political process that we as in the Orthodox community hasn't been involved with.
While Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau calls burning of churches an unacceptable response to the unmarked Indigenous graves, Conservative talk show host Ezra Levant says any comments from Canadian national leaders to the church attacks has been tepid at best.
You've got churches under attack all around, and frankly, no one willing to stand up for them because that's not politically correct. If these were mosques or synagogues, they'd have 100 champions. But Christians, I'm afraid, are the last acceptable group in Canada to discriminate against, even with violence and arson.
Levant says the other side, however, has been brutal at times. For example, the recent tweet, "Burn it all down," that led to the resignation of Harsha Walia, leader of British Columbia Civil Liberties Association.
This activist seemed to be saying, if you're a Christian, you deserve to be burnt and scared and picked on by virtue of your Christianity.
Levant says politicians have used churches that stayed open during the pandemic as scapegoats.
In the province of Alberta, 3 different pastors were jailed for refusing to close their church. Churches were demonized as super spreaders. They were scapegoated for the pandemic. It was reminiscent of language that was used against the Jews in Germany 80-odd years ago, that they're disease carriers, they're infecting society.
Members of St. George's recently held a vigil outside their burnt church, vowing to rebuild. Faltas told CBN News that he has a message for whoever destroyed their beloved place of worship.
The only thing that we can say to those perpetrators is, as Christian believers, is we forgive you. We'd obviously would love to have our church still standing, but at the same time, we're strong believers that although today may be a day of mourning, God will provide, and tomorrow will be a day of joy.
George Thomas, CBN News.